Hello and welcome back to our CAD clip lessons on Revit structure. And we're going to talk about adding a slope to a roof. And unfortunately, you can only put one slope angle on a roof. It doesn't have to be perpendicular to the edges, but you can only add one slope. You can't add more than one slope into a slab by means of using the slope arrow. And there's kind of the resultant, and you can define that slope in a different way. You can say I want this floor plate or slab to be sloped by giving an offset distance from one end to the other of the slope arrow, or you can give a definite and actual angle in degrees. Okay, so I'm going to click on there and I'm just going to hit delete. And just as a demonstration, when I had said to attach walls, when you create a roof or a floor above any walls and it asks you the question, do you want to attach the walls below? If you say yes, what it does is it automatically projects those walls up to that floor or roof. Okay, in this case, I just was playing with different actual heights of this. So I'm going to look from my south elevation. You can see that one is up to there. So I'm going to actually take that just as an example, and I'm going to make that go back to, instead of having an offset of 3 feet for that one, I'm just going to put an offset of 0 and bring that floor back down. So I've basically got just some walls, and these are door openings I've thrown in there just to kind of break up the monotony. And now I'm going to put a sloping floor, and there's a couple ways of doing it. So I know that the top of these walls are at level 2, so I'm going to go on to my level 2 and I'm going to zoom over here. Okay, now I'm going to start my slab or floor command. Okay, and first I have to define the outside edges of the slab itself. So I'm going to use my pick walls, and I'm going to use an offset of 0. I'm going to hover over one of the walls. You can see the outer edge turns kind of green. I'm going to hit tab and then click. Now I can flip these back and forth. I want to leave it on the outside, and then that's done. If I just did finish sketch, I would have, now would you like the walls that go up to this floor level to attach to its bottom? Not only will they attach, they will project up to it. Okay, and I'm going to say yes in this case. And in when it's just flat like that, you say, okay, well, it didn't really do anything because it was already at that level. Okay? Now this is the difference. I'm going to go back into here and I'm going to hit edit of that floor. I'm going to go to my level 2, and now I'm going to add a slope arrow. Slope arrow here on the left. Now which way do I want to slope? Well, I want to slope, that is the tail of the arrow, and that is the, so this is the head of the arrow. This is the tail, escape. Now, I can click on there and you can see it goes from there to there. And there's a couple ways of doing this, okay? After you place a slope arrow, you define its angle by clicking on the arrow and then going to the properties of it up in here. Okay? And there's, first and foremost, there's 2 ways of defining the slope. You can put a slope by defining the head at tail offset, or simply by putting an angle in and typing in an angle over here. So let's start by using this slope at head and tail. So the level at tail is the default, which was the level that I was on, which is my level 2, which is fine. Okay. Height offset at the tail is, I'm going to say at the tail is 0, and the level at the head is default, and the height offset at the head is, let's go with 6 feet to give it a fairly drastic change. And then I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hit finish sketch. Now, would you like the walls that go up to this floor to attach? I'm going to say yes. Okay, now watch. I'm going to go to 3D. What's happened when you say yes to that, it takes that wall and doesn't attach. Watch. If I detach that from here, that goes down to there. If I click on this and I detach that from there, it goes down to there. Shift, middle mouse button. Okay. In fact, I can do this quickly by grabbing all of these walls and saying detach from here. So now I've got the sloped, remember, click on the object to swivel around it. Now I've got the sloped roof, or floor I should say, but the walls are not attached. So I undid that question of do you want to attach the walls underneath it. Okay, now I'm going to click on here and I'm going to hit edit again. It flattens itself out. I'll go back to my level 2. Let's review that. Clicking on the slope arrow, going back to the properties, okay. Height offset at the tail, and I always get mixed up which is the head and the tail. This is the tail, this is the head. The head has the arrow on it, sloping direction. Now, if I change this and say, oh no, I just want to put in a slope, it's telling me at a 6 foot offset equals 18 degrees. Well, let me just make it even more drastic and let's make it 20 degrees. And then I hit OK, and then I finish my sketch. Do I want the walls to attach up to it? No. The floor overlaps the highlighted walls. Would you like to join the geometry? I'm going to say no. We'll talk about join geometry as well later. It's kind of like attach. Go to my 3D view, okay, and there's my floor. Notice it cuts that off nice and straight, and there's my 20-degree angle. Now if I wanted, I could take all these walls and say attach to here. We'll have a separate lesson on that, and that's attaching. It looks more like a roof right now, but it's a bit of a drastic. Just for visual purposes, I want to really slope that floor system. In actuality, wouldn't slope that much, but the same principle lies with that slope arrow. Okay, now I can go back to this and say edit. Okay, what happens if I go to my level 2? I'm going to take this and slope it like diagonally from here to here. Okay, and check the properties of it, and let's bring the slope down to be a little less. Let's go 7 degrees. Hit OK, finish the sketch. Would you like the walls to attach? Yes. And there we have it. Go to my 3D view, and now I have that slope, but I'm defining it based on the length of there. Now I'm going to go back and edit that, okay, to my level 2. Okay, so in other words, right now, if I click on here, it's 7 degrees going this direction. Well, I'll tell you what, it wouldn't make any difference where this is along this line. Okay, as long as it's going in that direction, and it is 7 degrees. 7 degrees is 7 degrees. I'm going to end up with exactly the same in the end. Okay, it's just defining 7 degrees. Okay, now where the difference is on the length of that arrow is when, I'm going to go to my level 2, when you don't use degrees. When you go to here and you say, oh, the slope I'm defining by head and tail formula. Now it makes a difference because I'm saying from here to here it is offsetting by 6 feet. Okay, that's pretty steep. Okay, if I hit OK and finish that, and I hit yes to attach, I'm going to get a pretty drastic slope, and you'll also notice that it's diagonal because I'm giving a head to tail offset in that direction. Okay, I'm going to go back to here, edit this floor plate in my level 2. Okay, now I'm going to take this and say, okay, from here to the midpoint over here, check the properties, is got an offset of 6 feet. Well, let's give it an offset of 3 feet instead. Hit OK, finish the sketch. Yes, I want to attach the walls. Go to my 3D view, and now I have a slope. It looks like a double slope, but it's really not. Okay, it's sloping. Shift middle mouse button. From this corner up to this point over here is a 3 foot offset. And that's where we go into here and we go to our level 2. That's where the length of this makes a big difference, because now you're defining an offset between these 2 points. If I did this, you know, that would be a much bigger slope, because the distance is shorter with the same offset. I'm sure you can understand the math on that. So back to here, edit. Okay, so we've got the arrowhead, which we simply place by, and notice you can only put one. Once I place this, this gets grayed out. If I delete this, now all of a sudden I can do a new slope arrow. Well, what if I want to go the other direction? I'll go maybe from this point to here, escape. I want an offset of 2 feet. I'm going to click on there and say, okay, from here, a 0 at the tail, and at the head I want a 2 foot, now let's go 3 foot offset. Okay. Default, once again, is picking the level that I'm drawing on. Hit OK. Finish the sketch. Do I want the walls to attach? No. Go back to my 3D view. Aha, now I'm sloping the other direction. I must have said yes because my wall's attached. Okay. Once they've attached, you can keep changing this slope and they'll keep projecting up. Okay. So I can go back to here and detach. We'll talk about that later. Those from there to there. And notice my structural wall analysis is still going up. Okay, that's quite an interesting point. Okay, because this wall has been attached, the structural is going, the analysis is going up to the roof. Okay, we'll talk about that when we get to our analysis lessons. So, back to here, grab our floor, and again, this works with our arrowheads. So, nothing really complicated. Add a slope arrow. After you add the slope arrow, click on it, check the properties, define which way you want to define your slope, by slope or by head tail. Plug in your numbers, kind of a trial and error. The thing I get mixed up in mostly is which is the tail and which is the head. And if you don't know, you have a 50% chance of getting it right, and then you can just go back and you just remember that the tail is the first point and the head is the second point that you pick with the big arrow on it. And other than that, sketching the outside lines are the same as we've been doing before. And remember that when just because you're on level 2, always check your work plane here to make sure that that's probably on the same level as well. Okay, from our previous lesson. And that's it. Slope arrows, nice and easy.